Good morning, everybody. In my life journey, so to speak, I'm often reassessing, reevaluating myself. When I was paralyzed for 8 days because of a migraine, this was going back some years, I was at my lowest point in life. Couldn't move, I was bedridden, I was in a hospital. So I have a different point of view than a lot of people. When I have a challenge in front of me, I don't just give up and say I can't do it. Because being paralyzed taught me that there are things that are possible, that are within our grasp. And the reason I'm talking about that today is because I think I learned something about myself this morning. I don't even know if it was on the news or what I saw or heard. I was just listening to something and it dawned on me that in this lifetime, take my paralyzation for example. When I was paralyzed, I wasn't competing with anybody, right? Because I was down and out in a hospital bed. So I wasn't competitive. I wasn't running a race. Oftentimes we think of ourselves as in competition with others. And we give up. We know that we can't beat them. It's a sink or swim mentality. When you're down at your lowest point, you suddenly realize, yes, there's always going to be somebody better than you. There's always going to be somebody taller than you. There's always going to be somebody that can do this or that you can't do. There's always going to be somebody that achieves success. And there's always going to be somebody that does something that you fail at. Your biggest competitor is yourself. If I didn't learn anything else, being paralyzed for 8 days in a hospital, my only competitor was me. When I strived just to wiggle a toe, or just to get out of that hospital bed, or just to move again, even just to lift my arm, boy, would I have given anything to be able to do that during those 8 days. The hospital was ready to transfer me to a nursing home because they gave up on me. The hospital thought she'll never recover. They told my family, they told my grandfather. My grandfather was dying of cancer. And they told him that to his face. He developed a twitch. And he said, no, not my granddaughter. If I know anything about her, she'll get up and walk again. And the hospital nurse came in and laughed in his face. And she said, honey, that girl is never getting up again. You just got to face facts. She is now bedridden. She might be able to get up in a wheelchair someday, but it's going to take months and months and months of physical therapy. So we need to get her out of here and into a place where they can help her with that because we need the bed for somebody else. My grandfather threatened to take me out of there himself and transfer me to a different hospital. And I said, you know what? I am going to walk again because that is the reason why. She said I can't do it. My point is, there's always going to be somebody better. There's always going to be somebody more resilient. There's always going to be somebody more successful. And if you look at life like that and say, well, there's somebody better than me out there, I'm just going to give up, then that is the sink or swim mentality. If you just give up, you're sunk. So because of my life experiences, and this is what I'm sharing here today, because of being bedridden for 8 days in a hospital where I was paralyzed and everybody else gave up on me, except my grandfather, because of that experience, I was not going to a nursing home. And I told that nurse that I have kids. I want to go home. I want to take care of them. And that nurse laughed at me. She laughed in my face. My attitude was get up and strive or get sunk. And I didn't want to be staying in a place where I felt defeated and sunk. The reason for all of that happening, because you might say, well, why couldn't you just go home? because my whole entire home is surrounded by stairwells. I have no way into my house other than a stairwell. So by law, the hospital explained it to me that they couldn't release me to unsafe conditions and that they would have to release me to a place that was safe because it wasn't wheelchair friendly at my house. That's why. Because otherwise, I probably could have just went home. They sent a physical therapist in on my second to last day in the hospital. And she came in and she said, if you can do this, you can go home. And I got to the point where I was able to scoot. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk. But I was able to scoot on my leg and one of my hands. And because I could do that, she had a pretend set of stairs they use in physical therapy. And she brought me over to that. And I was able to push myself up these stairs. And when I was able to do that, she said, you can go home. You can get up the stairs. So even though I was still paralyzed a little bit, like they had put me on gabapentin and everything like that because it was from a migraine. It wasn't from like a car accident. My spine wasn't severed. It was nothing like that. It was a migraine that paralyzed me of all things. It's called a hemiplegic migraine, and apparently they are inherited. And it seems to have come from my bio dad's family, not my mother's side of the family. So I was able to go home. And my message here today is, if you have that attitude, there's always somebody better than me. Why do I even bother trying? Why am I doing this? There's always somebody going to be better than me. Then you're already defeated. You've already defeated yourself. It's not afraid of failure. It's afraid of somebody being better than you. You're afraid of defeat. If you have never had a traumatic life experience, or if you've never had these experiences, you may have a different way of thinking, and you might easily give up and say, hey, I'm just going to give up. They're better than me. Why try? And I can honestly tell you that your greatest competitor is yourself. And what you need to do is, instead of looking at the ocean, just look at where your feet are. Where are your feet? They're right here. Don't look at that big ocean. Don't look across it and say, I can't compete with all the people that have ever crossed that ocean. Don't do that to yourself. Look at your feet. You're grounded right here. It's your comfort zone. And you say to yourself, what is it that I want to achieve? And then you look at the ocean, but you don't see the other swimmers. You don't see anybody there. You just see the waves. You see some birds in the sky. You might see the sun, a little clouds over here, in the blue sky in the background, or perhaps it's raining and you see all clouds and rain drizzle. Who knows? The end result should be, when you look out at that big ocean, you see nothing but your path. What are you going to do? How you're going to do it? But don't look at everybody else's journey. And I'm saying this as life wisdom. Because, like I said, if I had the attitude, I'm sunk, I'd probably be in a nursing home or who knows where today. It took me a year to learn how to walk again. It took me a year to drive a car again. Thankfully, my grandfather, even though he had cancer, he was able to drive me on some occasions, and I was able to see my kids perform little plays. I was able to make little award ceremonies and to see them get their little awards. I was able to drive after a year and then begin to rebuild my life again. But from somebody who was down at their lowest point in life, I'm telling you, do not look at the crowd and say, I can't do this. I'm not as good as they are. Just look at your feet. Where are you? You're grounded in your safe spot. What is it going to take for you to be in that crowd? I may sometimes trip on my own feet. I actually might slightly limp a little some days. My leg gets out when I'm on the treadmill. But ultimately, when I am on that treadmill, I am dancing my way through life. I'm not stopping my exercise momentum and giving up halfway because I see somebody else running way faster than I could ever run. I don't do that. I don't look over there. I don't care. I don't see what they're doing and give up. I look at my feet and I think back when I was in that hospital bed and everybody else gave up. And I said, oh, heck no, I'm not giving up. I didn't strive for perfection. I didn't jump out of that bed. I said, I hope to one day walk again, and I'm going to try and try and try my hardest. Like I said, it took me a year. At first, I walked with a walker. Then I walked with a cane. And then I could walk on my own 2 feet. And when I'm at that gym now, you should see me go. If you've ever been down on your luck and come out of it, you know what I'm talking about. You have a different outlook. You have a different perspective. I don't pursue perfection. I don't pursue success because somebody else is successful. I pursue challenges of myself that I can compete with. I don't compete with anybody else. If you are having health problems, if you are having the fear of failure, if you feel defeated, I want you to stop right now and I want you to look at your 2 feet. Where are they? They're grounded where you are, wherever you are. That's your starting point. Don't look at life like, I can't do this. If you are feeling defeated, if you are feeling like a failure, if you feel like all you have in your life is loss, take a look at your feet. Where are they? It's amazing what you can do when all you have left is to look down. Thanks for watching today. Take care.